Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Bannon or Airspeed Prime here. I am the site super moderator for Avatar The Last Airbender Online.com, and I'm here today with the episode commentary for episode 206, The Blind Bandit. This episode we see the introduction of Toph, how we having been kind of foreshadowed of her appearance in the swamp, as the Vision Aang saw there. In my opinion, this is the best episode of any TV show that introduces a new main character, because it introduces Toph perfectly. Like, as in this episode, you're introduced to Toph, she develops a bit, and there's plot in it, and that Aang has found his earthbending teacher. And we have a previously an Avatar in this episode. And these are really good at introducing us to these episodes. And that Aang wanted Bumi to be his earthbending teacher, but he has to find a master of neutral Jinn who waits and listens. And as we know, Toph is blind, and what better than like a kind of blind person who will wait and listen, kind of having to depend more on their other senses to make up for their kind of disability. But for Toph, it is not actually a disability. It's kind of, in a way, it's an advantage for her that she kind of cannot see. And we see Sokka loves his shopping. He's a bit of a fashionista in a way. Likes that bag. Gets himself a bag. And here we're kind of introduced to Master Yu and his Earthbending Academy, and instantly Aang thinks like, ooh, if he has an Earthbending Academy, he must be a great teacher and Earthbender. So he goes there, but like Master Yu, all he cares about is money, really. So this isn't gonna help Aang, because like they're kind of traveling around, so they don't have any money really. And again, this is all assuming that like you can earthbend in the first place, which Aang can't at the moment. He's just like that kind of like stereotypical karate teacher, like first lesson's free, pay for the next one. And then referencing the Earth Rumble 6 right away. And this episode is great at kind of the way it kind of deals with kind of pro wrestling and wrestling fans. I know here's the kind of first time we see Katara standing up for Aang. She follows these guys, and as we find out later, she beats them up to get the information out of them. And just the kind of voice acting here from Mae Whitman. The girl has a way, she just says it so perfectly to suit the scene. And here, like instantly we're introduced to like front row seats, like that's where the wrestlers would get thrown into in like WWE or something. But it's just the way they kind of use earthbending, the kind of it is the kind of one element you would think would be the one most suited to wrestling. As we know in Korra that wrestling is going to be actually an earthbending style, I think, or some element style for the pro bending arenas. So you kind of get the thing that the pro bending arenas may have been kind of inspired by Earth Rumble. And then here we have the big bad hippo and the boulder. The hippo voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, who voices the Lion Turtle and other characters. And then we have Mick Foley voices the boulder, and he does kind of a his voice for the boulder is kind of an homage to his former tag team partner, The Rock, in that like he refers to himself and like as the boulder, like nearly every time in this episode. And just the way the commentators like, oh no, the boulder, he's losing, but here he's coming back. And then it kind of just screams all pro wrestling, like with the kind of finishing maneuvers there. And it looked like Katara was excited to go there, and then she's throughout the episode she kind of just like um how do I say it? She got, oh god, this is such a guy sport, you know, just kind of being real aggressive, kind of as exemplified by Sokka, who just takes on the role as a stereotypical wrestling fan, like completely screaming, insulting all the wrestlers and stuff like that, all the competitors in this game. And here's the kind of definition of a wrestling heel. You know, like he knows he's going to be the bad guy, so he dresses up as a Fire Nation soldier in an earth-bending arena. And then here we go, another finishing maneuver from the top ropes, as it would be in wrestling. And then Sokka just like reveling in this guy's pain. Boulder put the hurt in the dirt. And then we see that they use badger moles as the kind of zambonis to clear up the arena again. And then like we get like kind of all these other wrestling references here with like, you know, the geckos like Rey Mysterio, and then you have like all the other guys are references to like pro wrestlers. And then we're introduced to Toph here as the pro bending champion. You know, like we see that like she's half the height of the kind of ring girls. You know, they notice that she's blind. Sokka, as a fan of the Boulder, thinks Boulder's instantly gonna win. And it's such a great introduction to Toph. The first thing she says, you instantly know what her character is. She's just this really tough little girl. Just insulting him with the pebble, and then the laugh as the reference to the swamp. And the way that the gang, Aang and Katara, especially at first, show so much kind of like respect to Toph. Like they don't make a big deal about her kind of blindness. You know, they're kind of like, oh, how's she gonna fight? But she has to be the champion for a reason. As we see here, she does wait, listens to the earth as the boulder attacks, as kind of done perfectly here with this seismic sense. And just such a simple move, she moves her foot forward, and she completely gets the boulder off balance. And you know, like, oh, she's amazing. 2 moves and she has won that fight by waiting and listening. And then just the grin from Toph, further emphasizing what her character is, you know. She is epic, you know, like witty comments. And again, no further reference about her blindness, which I think is amazing, and they always do this for Toph's character. You know, like they don't define her character as being blind, they kind of define her character as, like, she's the one who's gotten over kind of her blindness through kind of the bending. You know, she is like tougher than most people. Obviously Aang goes to fight, but it's really just to get like a chat with Toph, to like ask to be her to be his teacher. And then this thing here, Sokka, ever the wrestling fan, just like no talking, and then Katara's just like, you've gone too far. Don't boo him. And then we see the limitations of Toph's seismic sense, in that like Aang is very light on his feet as an airbender. She kind of struggles to kind of see him. And Aang uses airbending to win, which, you know, is against the rules since it's Earth Rumble. And Toph is just really kind of embarrassed by this defeat, you know, like we're introduced to her as like the toughest like of them all, despite her being a like little girl. She's the same age as Aang, 12. So like her losing to just this randomer from the crowd is like real a big embarrassment to her. And then, you know, Sokka is the one who gets the belt and the money from Xinfu. And then the bag matches the belt. that's the definition of manly when your bag matches your belt. And Aang is so set on having Toph as his earthbending teacher. You know, she completely exemplifies the kind of mantra of wait and listen before striking. And then like no one's showing kind of respect to Aang, and then Katara just like as the kind of bully kind of character. You know, like as she walks out here in a minute. Look, I've got my eye on you. If this is wrong, I'm coming back for you. And then you know we saw Toph in fancy clothes at first, so you know she's the richest. She's from a rich family, and then like none of them know that the Beifong family has a daughter. So you kind of think, oh, what's up here? If she's from a rich family, why is she in this kind of? It is a sort of shady thing, the Earth Rumble. You know, like guys going around the streets with leaflets. Come to this thing. And here's the kind of thing about kind of like the fights being kind of rigged in pro wrestling. Like like the way it is, it's scripted, so like someone's gonna win. And they're just like you know they're kind of referees in Fu, organizer, talking with one of the kind of performers and like the boulder. You know they're kind of in on it together. You know they sneak into the Beifong household. And you see the earth move up, you know, like, oh, she does live here. And here she is in the kind of fancy clothes again, as she saw it in. And there's the reference there, you know, like, don't answer the twinkle toes, it's not manly. I was like, you're the one whose bag matches the belt. And here we see Toph's kind of like, she'll grow as a character throughout this episode. Like, we know later that she doesn't have any, like, real friends. Like, she kind of longs to go out and explore the world. You know, like she's kind of going against her parents' wishes by participating in the Earth Rumble. They don't know that she's a powerful bender, so her ignoring a chance to kind of explore the world, become the Avatar's teacher, explore the world with the Avatar, you know, have friends. You know, as they said that they didn't mention anything about her blindness. You know, like. And then she'll grow through this episode to realize, you know, friends are important to her. And then we see that she is hiding it from them here. Master Yu is her earthbending teacher, but as we later find out, she was taught earthbending by the badger moles, and the reason she could learn from them is because they are blind too, like her. So she learned like a way to extend her senses through earthbending. So it's a vital aspect of her character, her earthbending. And it's just that little thing, like the little kind of whirlwind kind of cooling down the soup. And they clap. And then it's just this kind of weird conversation. When do you think you'll win the war? And then he's just like, I'd like to do it before the end of summer. And Aang knows, like, he's not a good teacher. And Aang sort of doesn't fully know yet that, like, you know, she's keeping her from her family. He's just kind of asking these questions to get the point. And he kind of catches on here and, you know, like, tries to kind of out her as the kind of master earthbender that she is. And then just the kind of earthbending thing that only Aang and Toph notice. And it's just kind of rivalry instantly between them that makes you kind of love their relationship at the start. You know, they're both kind of, you know, earthbending, and then they both kind of snap at each other. Everyone's kind of wondering, oh, what happened? They didn't notice, like, really any of the earthbending going on from Toph. And then Toph comes in. She's trying to sincere kind of for once. And here's this great speech. Credit to Jessie Flower as the kind of voice actor here for Toph. The way she explains it to Aang, and the way Aang completely accepts this, and like he's kind of eager to kind of learn this. Like this is kind of why she's a master of neutral Jin. And there's the thing her parents don't understand. She's kind of grown to accept this too, that she thinks she is helpless. But the kind of bit of rebellion in doing the Earth Rumble thing kind of tells you that she wants to go somewhere. Aang tells her that they could go with her. And that's what she longs for. She's grown to accept the fact that her parents think she's helpless, and she has to, as part of the kind of Bei Fong family, or well-respected family, she has to do what they want. I know, here's metal cages here. If only Toph had, discovered metal bending this early. And here we see where, the wrestling thing is sort of like a kind of it's not fully real in that way. They're all working together, the organizers and the performers. Toph was kind of like a different thing. It's all about money, this kind of blackmail thing. And then the little wrestling fan thing comes out once again. And then there's that thing. She's just the biggest kind of trash talker in the world. There's another, here's a standoff again. It's just fantastic in that, this episode is fantastic in that they introduce you to so many different characters. And they don't really explore many of them apart from kind of Toph and the kind of relationship with her parents. But you instantly understand why they are the way they are. You think it's just a sport, but it's all kind of this kind of business thing, just to get the money in. And here is the big moment in this episode. Toph going off, she doesn't have the kind of hope yet. She's believing sort of what her father's saying here, but then, it all snaps for her. She can help Aang. She does want to go with them. She's kind of sick and tired of playing the role as that kind of disabled girl. She's helpless. She's fragile. And Toph holds both of them back, who are good fighters, and she just kind of wants to take them on her own. And there's that line for her, "They're mine," and you're just like, oh. And just the sheer power of Toph here, she rivals Boomy as the best earthbender in the world. This massive explosion she just makes there sends them all flying back. They focus on their eyes in this smoke cloud. She just walks in, she's blind, she has the advantage here. The smoke doesn't matter at all to her. She's standing right there, beside him. She sees the little movements. And just the slow motion is used perfectly in this fight scene here. And we see the different kind of earthbending style from Toph here. It's kind of northern praying mantis style sort of thing, I believe it is. As you can see, with the kind of feet movements and hand movements from Toph, it's all about keeping her feet connected to the ground. And as we know from the Great Divide, a lot of earthbenders focus on their hands to do earthbending, but Toph is almost kind of more focused on her feet in her earthbending style. And Aang there comes out of the cage, ready to fight. But it's there's no need. Toph's just brutalizing them all. And then her father, like, just freaking out, like, oh my god, my fragile daughter, my, like, blind daughter here. She's gonna get injured. And just so clever, she can even sense that guy coming in, kind of swinging in. Just a little smile and like grins throughout this fight as she knows, like, I own these guys. And then Master Yu is just like, okay, my teaching has done nothing. She's a master. And here's Jin Fu. We see him earthbound for the first time. Toph just kind of spits, just like, no respect for you. Again, further emphasizing her character, that she's tough. But as we saw throughout this episode, there is that kind of emotional side to her. It's all to do with her parents not accepting her fully. As we see at the end of this, they still don't accept her. There's the kind of thing. Toph waits and listens. She sees his hand, which would have been like a surprise attack for any other Earthbender, hit the ground. She dodges it and just nails him. And everyone's just speechless. Sokka collapses. He's just like, his wrestling foaminess has just come out, you know, like, that was so epic. And here's Toph reveals her true feelings to her parents. And you know, you sort of kind of like feel this emotional speech from Toph. That thing, she's never had a real friend. And they kind of all look at each other kind of concerned, like they kind of need to help her. She wants to go with Aang now and help him. She gets her hopes up. And then her parents still will not accept her. They still think she's fragile. And you just kind of go, what is wrong with these parents? Like, it's sort of, you sort of get the feeling like they don't want Toph to go out into the world. We see the tear there, just showing, just she does have an emotional side. She's not just a smart aleck kind of a tough girl. Coming back to the thing with her parents, you know, they just do not understand, and you're just kind of like, what is wrong with them? And you can tell, they all can tell that she's lying. But they heard the thing about, like, she had no friends. They are the only ones who accept her as a person rather than a blind person. And you know, just that little moment there just makes you like, oh, Toph is epic. She just, one move, wants the belt back. And then there's just a little kind of blind joke at the end, which they do very well. And then you're just even more kind of weirded out in that, like, Toph's parents kind of showed so much respect to Aang at the start, yet, you know, they wanted him to end the war as quick as possible, yet kind of like they found out that their daughter is an amazing Earthbender, and they won't let her teach Aang to kind of help him end the war. So, and then they send like Jin Fu and Master Yu after them. So, and the kind of one thing that like you'd say negative about this episode is that like it's pretty much like one of the only episodes where we get like some major development for Toph, and it is the episode that we're introduced to her in throughout the show. And the thing with her parents is not resolved. I think there kind of needed to be a scene in the finale with her going back to her parents, and we may get that in the Promise comics. I'm not sure if it's in part 1. We haven't seen all of part 1 yet, but I think that is so crucial to her character. Like, without the kind of thing with her parents, she doesn't really develop much as a character throughout the series. You know, she kind of learns to trust her friends, but the thing with her parents is like kind of her defining character thing throughout the series. She needs that to be resolved. So I'll see you next time for the next episode, which is episode 207, Zuko Alone. Like, episode completely focused on Zuko. And it's just it's a really good episode for like further realizing like Zuko is not the kind of villain that we want. Like we know that Aang is the good guy, and we know that Zuko's chasing him, but like we know why he's chasing him.